picking up where he left off, President Trump signed a flurry of restrictive immigration executive orders on day one. He reinstigated the Remain in Mexico policy, one of the most controversial programs implemented during his first term. He also paused refugee admissions, officially designated Mexican cartels terrorist organizations, and signed a proclamation declaring a national emergency at the southern border, where an increased military presence will be stationed.
Trump also ended birthright citizenship for children born to parents living in the U.S. illegally. Critics say this is a violation of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Joining us now to dive into these executive orders and challenges they might face is David Bier, Director of Immigration Studies at the CATO Institute. Welcome, David. So what is your view of this effort to change this aspect of the immigration policy?
Well, you listed, a dozen things already, and you haven't even covered half of it. So there's a lot going on. It's happening very rapidly. Obviously, this is a major change in policy. Look, my view is birthright citizenship is a fundamental part of U.S. Law and has been since the founding of the United States. Dred Scott decision was a departure from that. The 14th Amendment was meant to rectify that mistake, but there's never been a time where people who are born in the United States as civilians and not representatives of foreign governments are not considered U.S. citizens. And so that is extraordinarily dangerous. It's an assertion that the President of the United States, by a stroke of a pen, can take away the citizenship rights of Americans. And so I'm very concerned about that. Obviously, it's going to be challenged in the courts. He also declared that there's an invasion at the southwest border of the United States. This is, again, extraordinarily problematic when you consider it in the context of the Constitution. The Constitution says that when the United States is subject to an invasion, the U.S. government can wage war inside the United States in response. Also, state governments can wage war, and all of that, what that would entail, all the powers that opens up over Americans inside the United States, as well as potential military action across our border with Mexico. And the final thing it does under the Constitution is if we're subject to invasion, then the federal government can suspend the writ of habeas corpus, which is our rights as Americans to challenge wrongful detention. We can be seized and detained at any time when habeas corpus is suspended. So that is, just a small sampling of how expansive the powers being asserted here are. And even with respect to, what you mentioned, something that seems kind of common sense, labeling these awful drug cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Again, because you're talking about them, he is talking about them invading on behalf of foreign governments. That means that we're potentially setting up a situation where the President of the United States has declared that we are at war with any number of different governments. Again, this is troubling territory to enter into. The implications were not thought through before he signed these orders.
I suppose, David, the argument from the right, which isn't usually the argument I voice, but the argument from the right would be that there was clearly public disquiet about the levels of unauthorized migration. Immigration was obviously, I think in almost everyone's estimation, a strong issue for now President Trump in last year's campaign. And so this is, as it were, carrying out the will of the people. But you obviously have very grave concerns, either that people are not aware enough of the constitutional dangers or not aware enough about the way this could abrogate the rights of American citizens.
Yeah, right. I mean, look, illegal immigration is a problem. It's actually much less of a problem than when Trump left office last time. So, he left office over 70,000 people were arrested by Border Patrol. This time he's entering with, 45,000 or so arrests at the southwest border. So the idea that somehow this has reached a level or, is at a point right now in January of 2025 that he can supersede immigration law and the Constitution and suspend these various rights, it's just totally unsupported. And again, it's a power grab. He's asserting his authority early on in his term, testing his limits, and all of that. But this is really a bridge too far. We're not talking about countering illegal immigration even in this at this point. We're talking about stripping the rights away from Americans and giving power to the government to detain people without due process, to detain people without probable cause, and to even deport people from the country without due process, without proving that they're in the country illegally, that they're subject to removal. Again, these are all powers that would really create a great deal of embarrassment among the founders if they knew that a president was doing this.
Yeah, to play, well, I don't even know if I'm playing devil's advocate. I largely agree with your immigration views, but we are in a political moment where Trump won an election explicitly on the idea of at least reining in illegal immigration. It's certainly a lot of people, a substantial faction of the right, want a wholesale reduction of immigration, even legal immigration. We're seeing that battle play out between your more Elon Musk faction that does support at least more high-skilled immigration, and then the kind of economic populists who want much stricter limits. What I would describe as a kind of like affirmative action for the workers who were born in America, which I obviously oppose. But there's a need to pick our battles, or I think the restrictionists are going to just win the argument.
Well, absolutely. Look, I mean, I think there's, the illegal immigration issue, debating whether we should be, stopping illegal immigration is kind of, pointless at this point. Trump's going to do what he's going to do. I think it's really about defending the rights of Americans and defending the fundamental framework of the Constitution about who sets the laws, who changes the laws, what rights do we enjoy as Americans to be free from wrongful detention and arrest, and not letting the president essentially run completely away with the Constitution and these limits on what he can do. Look, he's suspending the refugee program. He is doing all kinds of things that I completely disagree with on legal immigration, on as well as on border security and interior enforcement. I mean, he's saying we're going to have law enforcement going after anyone, regardless of whether they're a threat to their community. That's a waste of law enforcement resources, I think. So there are a lot of things I can disagree with on, but the basic framework of the Constitution shouldn't be up for debate.
David Bier of the CATO Institute, thanks for joining us in Rising.
Thanks.